So this is great. This is a podium where they sometimes have weddings and things in this room. You know, in fact, Laura Antoniou and Karen Taylor got married here. So this is like a you know, like a church. It's the church. It's the church of bisexuality. And this is now then the Bible of bisexuality. Wouldn't you say? So it's like the bi book. So yes, I'm happy to read from it. And yes, Circlet Press specializes in erotic science fiction and fantasy, but you know, I started Circlet Press in 1992 when nobody was publishing erotic science fiction and fantasy. Now there are some places that do it. Paranormal romance is a thing, and you know, so forth. And I thought, okay, well, how can we push the envelope? I said, I'm starting an imprint called Aggressive Press, which is for all the books that don't fit the sexuality categories. So gender queer, bisexual, trans, etc. You know, how do you do it? What the things that are being rejected other places because they're like, well, we don't know what to do with that. I said, that's my mission in life. So my short story is called Dragon's Daughter, and it's a time travel story. And I'm going to read you just some little bits from here and there within the story because she travels all over in time during it. And I have to take my glasses off to read at that point in life, right? Do I need the microphone? Tell me.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, give me it. I've been at Book Expo America. It's on. Yes.
Oh, there's a little tiny stand.
Yeah.
I can hold it. It's all right. No, really. I'm gonna get black lipstick on it, but I'll hold it. Ooh, so technical. Excellent. Sexy. All right. Is that better? Is that better? I've been at a book trade show all week. Book Expo America is here in New York City, and so I have no voice left. I've been doing nothing but talk in like loud circumstances. So the story is called Dragon's Daughter, and I'm just going to read you some very short excerpts from it. Memory is a hall of mirrors. When I was 20 years old, I discovered that one of the great secrets of the universe. I discovered the magic that ran in my blood and the truth of ancient stories. I knew in one moment, when all of time and space and history cracked open, what my destiny was. When I was 15 years old, my parents told me I was adopted. It's funny. So many things I remember so clearly. Our California living room, the fish tank humming in the silence between my mother's halting admissions, the hunch of my father's shoulders as he sat on the couch, elbows on knees, his slacks riding up his calf and showing his black socks. Like something from a made-for-TV movie. I remember my heart beginning to beat faster and faster under my skin as they talked while his face stayed stoic, while my surface froze like the ice on a pond. I remember so much, but I don't remember why they chose that moment to tell me. You came from the mainland, they told me, from the same province as our ancestors. Mom's medical difficulties had led them to the decision to adopt. Mom cried a little while telling me this, and I'm not sure which of us she was crying for. They seemed to think they should have told me a long time before, but they had never been sure how. I remember feeling stunned, but it all making sense somehow. I'd always felt there was something different about me, and I'd never known what. That day, though, I thought I knew. I was an ugly duckling in another bird's nest. But how little I knew. How little. I had no date for my senior prom. My parents wrung their hands so much over this fact that I kept my mouth shut about what I thought of marriage. Never planned to get married, never planned to have children. Somehow I knew that was just not for me, just as I knew I was not going to become an endocrinologist like the two of them, like they wanted me to. I had learned, though, not to protest too loudly, because if I did, they would moan and cry that only if they hadn't told me I was adopted, surely I would have gone along with all of their plans. There was no convincing them otherwise. So I would nod and smile, and then I would do whatever I wanted for myself anyway. So it was when I applied to college in Boston. So it was when I had a relative in San Francisco Chinatown make me a dress. My mother was scandalized I hadn't picked a more Western dress. It was imported silk, embossed with tiny flowers, edged with satin pipe, and closed with knotted cloth buttons. It was everything a ball gown should be, a Cinderella dress, but a Chinese Cinderella in flat silk slippers. I wore jeans and sneakers to school every day, but for this one night I wanted to be a princess. I think I knew the prom was no place for me, so the only way to do it was to become someone else. Chinese Cinderella danced with all the boys and made all the girls give her funny looks. I didn't find a Prince Charming. I was not surprised. I had bought the double-breasted suit in San Francisco, where the tailor seemed unfazed that a woman wanted a man's suit tailored to her. I stood looking at myself in the mirror, resisting the urge to Napoleon my hand between the two wide buttons. I'd gotten my hair cut that morning, and it seemed like a stranger, or maybe a long-lost brother, stared back at me from the glass. I'd been in San Francisco for a week at that point, and I was losing hope of finding Jin there. I had been trying to make friends with the other whores so I could ask around if anyone had seen her, but it was difficult to make friends with these women who were, by and large, closely guarded by their men and who knew very little of the outside world. I could not become one of them, and it took me too long to gain their trust. I needed a faster way to go from house to house, and it was overhearing the bragging of some Taiwanese businessmen about how many whores they could see in a night that gave me the idea to impersonate them. In the mirror, my twin smiled. When I first met Jin, I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. That is, she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, and I wasn't even conscious enough of the thought to know that I had thought it. It was only later when I began to realize what my thoughts were, as she occupied more and more space in my head. My poor, overworked brain, all crammed with women's studies classes and contradictory politics and comparative literature. When I arrived at the restaurant to begin my evening's work, I would forget it all. Jin's hands were soft as they brushed my hair and pinned it into place as they buttoned my silk-embroidered bar hostess dress. Each night, she transformed me from an overworked college student into something more elegant, but she herself never changed. When I first came to work for Skinny, I had an idea in the back of my mind that I would fool people into thinking I was something I was not. My mother was ashamed of the restaurant side of the family and had raised me to be as American as apple pie. But when I was 15, I had learned I came from the mainland. I began to undo that any way I could. I tried to teach myself to read Chinese, and I failed. When I went to college, I tried again and succeeded. But I thought it was too late. It was too late to be who I was meant to be. When I took the Chinese restaurant job, it was one more stab at grabbing a piece of the life I felt I had missed. But fate takes care of these things. And upstairs in Skinny's restaurant, I found a true piece of the past, waiting for me, like a piece of jade, buried in a box of silk.